All right, so we were talking about invoices. So for any partner account in the system, you can click on their account, and then in the left-hand tab, there's a tab for Invoice Manager. And this will bring you to the invoice setup, and then you can also see any past invoices for the particular account you're clicking on. So let's just start from the very top and go from there. So at the very top, it gives you the ability to manually create an invoice. It only allows you to choose a date end because there is already a previous invoice in here. So the date start is automatically configured as the date end of the previous invoice. So if we were to delete this invoice and then refresh the page, yeah, go ahead and do that, David. You'll see it now gives you the ability to set both a start date and an end date. So if you're manually creating the first invoice, sometimes that's what some people do because, you know, maybe they want it to be for an extended period of time for the first invoice. You can manually create that here. There's a couple little check marks there for when you're manually creating, whether you want to make it monthly, and that way it just automatically sets the end date. You can do the options for including credits and payments. So if they make a payment or they either, you know, manually through the system or you manually add it to the transactions tab, anytime they make a payment on account, that could be included in there as well. And then finally, if you want to include refunds, very important thing with Invoice Manager is that it is based upon the transaction date. So meaning if a lead came in on 8/31 today and sold to buyer A, and then you requested or they requested a refund for that lead tomorrow on 9/1, and you approved that refund on 9/1, that refund would be credited towards the month of September's invoice, since that is the date that the lead was refunded. It would not be included in an invoice you would run for August. So it's very important to remember that sometimes we'll get clients to say, you know, hey, well, what's going on with this invoice? You know, why aren't these credits included in there? I refunded these leads. The refunds are based upon when the lead was actually approved for being a refund, not when the lead came into the system. So now moving along to the invoice settings, here's where you can configure how the email is sent out, who it's sent out to, and what it's going to say. So invoice emails, this is where you want this invoice to be sent to. The subject line is just the subject line of the email that's sent. The body is just what's going to be said inside the email, because the PDF will be sent as the invoice will be sent as a PDF attachment to the email. If you do discount, this is where you can enter in a percentage number for if you want to do a percentage discount. That gives you an option to do that there as well. So then we'll get into the radio buttons here. So whether you want to enable automated invoicing, most of the time this is what the clients will do. Is that way you don't have to come in here and manually send it out to send out the email. It will automatically send it out based upon what you have set here. So right below it, the invoicing period, you want it to be weekly, you want it to be monthly. You can choose either or. If you do choose weekly, then the two options right below it are then used, the weekly billing time and the weekly generation time. If you mouse over, you can see the actual definition for exactly what that means. So the generation time is, you know, when the voice actually gets generated and sent out, while the billing time is you know, basically the cutoff for what leads you want to include in the invoice. And then also any additional text you want to include. It'll be attached at the end of every invoice. So just for this purposes, let's go ahead and click Create Invoice Data at the very top just to create the first one. So any invoices that are created show up at the very bottom, and you can see the invoice number, the amount it's for, when it was created, for what period is that invoice included in, and then whether it's marked as paid or not, and then some options for deleting or making payment or actually manually sending out the invoice. If you click on the invoice number, this will download the PDF for you so that you can view what it looks like. So as we mentioned, it is just a PDF file. It's going to have, at the very top is going to be the buyers or the partner's contact information. And based upon their account settings, it's going to have the invoice period, the date that it was sent out, and then below that it's going to highlight all the different leads that have been sold to them in the period, for how many, and then what the price is for each of those leads. So this one is inbound phone, so it's a little bit differently because you can see there's a per minute fee that's being charged for different leads. But most of the time we'll see a pretty similar lead price, so you'll see kind of more issues or more examples of the very first line. So total volume 10, they got 10 leads at $55 a piece, $550 total. And then if you scroll down, it's going to go through all those leads. It's also going to have then, if refunds are included into that period, those will be negative to reflect on those refunds. And then all the way at the bottom, it's going to have the total amount due for all the leads tallied up in this invoice. So that is the extent of what the invoice looks like. Pretty cut and dry, basic PDF email. Any of the customizations you want usually is done just in the email body itself. Right. We had some questions here that came through.
Yeah, it looks like one of them was regarding the invoice, or a couple of them. Refunds are based on the refund returns that are gathered from the portal, correct?
Yes, exactly. So a lead can only be considered a refund if it's actually refunded in the system, and then once it's requested to be refunded, it's then up to you to either approve that refund or decline it. If you approve it, the money they spent on that lead's automatically put right back into their account balance, and the lead's removed from their login or wherever they can see it. So yeah, either you can request refunds for them. If you allow it, they can log into their back end and request refunds for leads. Or like I said, you can do it for them through their login as well. But once it's requested, that's them requesting credit for a refund. It's still up to you. You always have the final decision. You have to either approve that refund or decline it here on this refunds tab that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, and to approve or decline, here you'll see all the partners that have requested refunds, and then if you click into their numbers here, it will pull up the actual leads, the lead IDs, and have information on the lead. And here you can either approve or decline these refunds. You can choose those and then click submit, and that will actually approve or decline. And then, just like Brett said, all of those will be shown up on the invoice, whether they were approved or declined.
All right, then the next question was, can you review the PDF prior to being emailed? If you do manual invoicing, yes. If you do automatic invoicing, no. Since it's automatically generated, automatically sent out.
Yeah.
We have another question from Jeff. So at the top, it is checked for monthly invoice, but in the middle, it is set up weekly. What will happen? At the top, it's only for manually generating the invoice. The middle one, if you set weekly, is for the automated invoicing. There's no way to list the filter set for the invoicing on project type. No, it's based on the leads and the lead price that they bought. Each different lead they buy at a different lead price is its own row. If they buy leads at the same lead price, that they're included in that same row. So if they buy 5 leads at $50, those are in the same 5 leads totaled on that same row for that lead price. All right, so that is that's the extent of the invoices. As I said, manual or automatic invoicing can be enabled for each different partner account. You want the partner account we're under right now to say one thing in the body of the email. You want the body of the email going to a different account to say something different. You can do that. It's all set up individually within each partner account, just like the filter sets are.